take this opportunity to provide you with important updates on several key matters, namely, Budget 2025. The Budget 2025 was submitted to the Council of Advice at the beginning of November 2024, and it was returned to us on December 3rd, 2024. The Ministry of Finance finalized the NADR report and made the necessary recommended changes. Yesterday, the Council of Ministers approved the budget, and it has been sent to the Governor to be forwarded to Parliament. I want to make it very clear that the budget process for 2025 started in April 2024. The government and ministries have been working on this document for months. It is not a document that is drafted within a month. It goes through various checks and balances, which is why it takes so long. The intention is to proceed with the budget 2025 in Parliament next week. Following this, in May 2025, we will present a budget amendment which aligns with the law and the timelines for such amendments. I look forward to presenting more details to Parliament next week during my presentation on the 2025 budget. Barbados, IMF Caribbean Forum on Green Energy. Together with the Minister of TIAT, I attended the IMF Caribbean Forum on Green Energy. This was an important event focused on renewable energy. What was different about this forum was the inclusion of both finance and energy ministers. Usually, finance ministers are never involved, which can create friction since most initiatives require collaboration between action and funding. During the forum, I learned from various islands about the importance of collaboration. One major issue discussed was the high costs we face when tendering for items like engines and solar systems. A key takeaway was the need for Caribbean nations to collaborate on joint bids, which would make us stronger and result in more competitive pricing. I also learned about different renewable energy options beneficial to the Caribbean, including solar, offshore wind, and geothermal energy. Geothermal energy, for instance, uses the heat from beneath the Earth's surface to generate electricity or provide heating. Volcanic islands such as St. Lucia and Nevis are particularly well suited for this energy source. Our islands are greatly affected by climate change, and St. Martin knows this all too well. It is essential that we learn from and support each other. Barbados, for example, was able to secure a debt-to-climate swap after 2 years of effort. This raises an important discussion with the Netherlands. How can we work together to redirect debt repayments into investments for the country instead of continuing to borrow funds while repaying loans? Collaboration among Caribbean nations is crucial because we are truly stronger together. Tax tables for 2023. The tax tables for 2023 have been completed, approved, and will be published this week. These tables should ideally be published before the start of the year to ensure they are incorporated into payroll systems for accurate tax calculations, which prevents under or overpayment of taxes. The Department of Fiscal Affairs is currently working on finalizing the tax tables for 2024 and 2025, which are expected to be completed, approved, and published in the first quarter of 2025. For the Ministry of Finance to establish the tax tables, the minimum wage must be first determined by the Ministry of VSA. Addressing this has been a priority, as there were legal discrepancies in how minimum wages were established in previous years, which caused delays in legally finalizing the minimum wage and, consequently, the tax tables. Collaborative meetings were held to expedite the resolution of this issue. Effective April 2024, the minimum wage was set at $10.40, and as of January 1, 2025, it will increase to $10.86. With this information, the Ministry of Finance can now proceed with creating and publishing the tax tables. Timely completion of tax tables is essential for compliance with tax regulations. Delays, such as completing tables 2 years after the relevant year, lead to inefficiencies and additional work for the tax office when conducting tax assessments. This issue is particularly pronounced given the current lack of digitalized systems and the extensive manual work still being done.
I have taken note of the ongoing incidents in the Simpson Bay Lagoon with respect to break-ins on vessels, the stealing of dinghies. I want to thank the St. Martin Marine Trade Association for bringing this urgent situation to my attention this past Monday. And since Monday, I've been diligently working together with the Chief Prosecutor, the Coast Guard, and KPSM to come to a resolution and to come to measures that we can take in order to tackle this issue. In light of that, we've seen actually that there's been an increase of Coast Guard patrols in the Simpson Bay Lagoon in the evening. This is also being done in collaboration with the security for the different marinas, such as PDP, IGY, Kupakoi. In addition, the Coast Guard is also doing joint patrols on land and water then with KPSM. And of course, we are in touch with our French counterparts because this is a cross-border issue. And unfortunately, we notice in these types of situations where we are two countries as much as we feel that we're one, and that there are complications when it comes to crossing the borders, and especially, for example, that there's no treaty in place when it comes to hot pursuit on water, for example. There are, however, case-by-case permissions granted during the course of this week. Nevertheless, tomorrow morning, I have an urgent meeting with myself, the Prime Minister, the Coast Guard, KPSM, and the Préfet on the French side so that we can bring this matter to the attention of our French counterparts and try to work together. Again, I want to reassure the marine industry, I want to reassure the public that public safety and security is something that I take very, very seriously and that I have made a priority of this situation since Monday. I want to also show my commitment and my reassurance and acknowledgement of the marine industry and the impact that it has on our economy. And I will continue to support where necessary and to take measures in order to secure and protect our industry, especially in this busy season. So I think that brings it. I think I could also report that one stolen dinghy has been recovered yesterday and returned to the owner since. And of course, investigations are ongoing. I can't speak too much, of course, to any active investigations or people having been arrested. But I just want to reassure the public that this has our attention, that we take it seriously, and that we're doing everything in our power to stop this and to nip it in the bud and to ensure that it doesn't become an issue throughout the rest of the season. So again, I want to say St. Martin is safe. Come here, and again, your government is working for you.
But to foreign parents, are they entitled to a passport, a Dutch passport? No. Okay.
They're entitled to a birth certificate because by law we have to make a birth certificate for them. Even though their parents are foreigners or illegal, we have to make up the birth certificate by law. But the Dutch nationality, no, it's not something that is.
They get automatically.
Automatically know that you're born here. No, you don't get it automatically.
Ever, or you have to wait until you're 18 or 21 or whatever?
At
Whatever
18,
age. At
once
18,
you're born
then
here,
you
you're
can
18,
apply.
then you can verify with the cabinet of the governor, and they're going to let you know if you qualify for the Dutch nationality, yes or no.
Yes, because there's different steps within and different requirements. So you can be born here, but they will still see that you always lived here, that you have a residence permit, that you went to school. All those requirements is still needed. So I cannot say everything about that because that's a jurisdiction from cabinet of the governor. However, our civil registry can only stipulate who automatically gets the Dutch nationality. So if one of your parents are Dutch and you're born now, automatically you will receive the Dutch nationality because of one of your parents. So within marriage of your parents, or if you were acknowledged before birth, for instance, by a Dutchman. So that will is scenarios where the child will automatically be Dutch. Always, if a child is born from a mother, then the child is a Dutch mother, the child is Dutch.
Automatically becomes Dutch.
Yes.
And the father?
It depends of the acknowledgement, or if it's within marriage.
Okay.
So a child born within marriage, one of the parents are Dutch, the child is automatically Dutch.
Okay, it used to be way back in the day
Yes.
when you automatically became Dutch if your parents, number one, married, and you automatically got your father's nationality.
Yes.
But not the mother, but now that's
Correct.
changed.
Yes. With the time, the law have changed quite a bit, and I must say the Dutch nationality is a law that changed quite often as well. So you will see that, for instance, between 2003 and 2009, even when the father acknowledged that child, the child won't become Dutch. So automatically. So that was in 2003 and 2009, and then in 2009 they reversed it back, but put a age limit. So before the child is 7, then the child will become Dutch when a Dutch man acknowledges the child. If the child is way over 7 years, then the child will not become Dutch. So there's a lot of changes. The Dutch law has a lot of different components that you have to put together to see if that person is Dutch, yes or no. And that counts the same way if the person lost the nationality. Because that's also
How can
something
you lose the
that-
nationality, Mrs. Snijders?
So
Briefly.
one of the possibilities are if you freely accept another nationality. So if I go to Canada today and live or study, and after 3 years, the Canadian authority says to me, Mrs. Snijders, for you to stay in Canada, we prefer you to have our nationality. For instance, maybe they use that word. But it's up to me if I say yes or no. And if I say yes, I would like to have that nationality because I have my life here. But originally, I'm Dutch.
Right.
And I'm not married to a Canadian. I'm a single woman living in Canada. I'm Dutch, and I make the decision, okay, let me take the Canadian. It makes things easier,
Right,
of course,
right,
because
right.
then I don't need to apply for my residence
permit and
permit
residence
and those
permit and
things.
everything else, yeah.
So I will take the Canadian nationality, and the consequence immediately is that I lose the Dutch.
SXM, your social and health insurance is SXM. SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXV, yeah, your social and health insurances.
Provide an update on my recent travel and a few important developments and announcements. Last week, I had the opportunity to attend key forums and meetings and events representing the interests of St. Martin, and here's a summary of the engagements and insights. So on December 2nd, I traveled to Barbados alongside Minister of Finance, Ms. Marinka Gums, to participate in the 2024 High-Level Caribbean Forum on Managing the Green Energy. I think Minister of Finance also made mention of that. This critical forum, held on December 3rd, was hosted by the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, and the Prime Minister, Honorable Mia Mottley. The event provided invaluable insights into transitioning St. Martin into a country aligned with sustainable and green energy standards. The discussions highlighted the need for a comprehensive strategy, which includes implementing effective policies, legislations, and initiatives that promote sustainable practices for our country. Both Minister Gums and I recognize the significant work ahead in ensuring St. Martin to become a regional green energy sector, a regional leader in the green energy sector. On December 4th, I paid a courtesy visit with the Senator and Minister of Economic Affairs and Investment of Barbados, Mr. Chad Blackman, and his delegation. And during our discussion, we explored several mutual interests, topics of mutual interest. One, of course, was agriculture, where I can learn from other countries. That's one of the topics I always bring up. Barbados aims to assist St. Martin with establishing an agriculture department, as I told them our situation. This partnership will include opportunities for young Barbadian agricultural entrepreneurs to contribute to the development of St. Martin agriculture sector under a mutual beneficial agreement. Then we spoke about investment promotion agency. I shared my intention to establish an investment, an IPA, an investment promotion agency for St. Martin, modeled on successful investments in the region. Barbados's Invest Barbados will provide assistance with this process, sharing their expertise and best practices. We also discussed food security, trade, and logistics. Both of us emphasized the importance of food security and agreed to collaborate on trade, transshipment, and logistics. The CARICOM Economic Partnership Agreement, the EPA, with the European Union provides a solid framework for pursuing these initiatives, particularly as St. Martin moves towards an association membership in CARICOM. Minister Blackman also noted that several African airlines are scheduled to begin commercial flights to and from Barbados in the first and second quarter of 2025. So they're looking at, maybe in Q1, a 6-hour flight from Nigeria to Barbados. This opens opportunities for connecting St. Martin with these new routes and enhancing regional and global air connectivity, something that we want to just maybe start having a discussion on. In conclusion, we both agree that establishing a working relationship on these topics is timely given the ongoing regional and global developments. To formalize this partnership, an MOU will be developed, same as one that I'm working on with St. Kitts. A joint working group, it's going to be a joint working group, including the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Barbados, will be formed to exchange documentation and draft a draft concrete proposal. These proposals will be finalized during a follow-up visit to Barbados in maybe Q1 of 2025. This collaboration underscores the importance of regional partnership in addressing common challenges and pursuing shared opportunities. Following the Barbados Forum, I traveled to Miami to attend my first meeting of the Caribbean Tourism Organization, the CTO. As a regional tourism development agency, the CTO plays a critical role in promoting sustainable tourism across the Caribbean. During the event, I attended the Ministerial Council and Board of Directors meeting, where a draft reimagined plan for the organization was presented. While St. Martin contributes over $100,000 annually to the CTO, I observed that its potential impact may not be fully utilized. To address this, I plan to conduct a thorough review in the coming months to determine whether our continued participations aligned with our strategic goals. As a strong advocate for regional integration, I believe our involvement should deliver measurable benefits, and I will explore upcoming events to better assess its value.
But why in particular did we, in collaboration with Bakari Chules, he actually came up with the title and the subject matter that he chose for me, what he wanted me to address, and why rights and responsibilities. Well, first of all, because of men's concerns. I think everybody has met a man or a father who has a story about not being able to see his child, having difficulties with with visitation, difficulty with alimony payments, wondering where's my money going to? And then of course all the famous stories. She doing her nails, she doing her hair. My child has old shoes, didn't I pay the money on time? And why am I paying so much? And then on top of that, this subject matter has a direct effect on children's neglect. Because in one way or another, the conflict between two adults, the parents, always has an effect on the children. And I'm going to address that a little bit more during this presentation. Now, I was going to do a survey, because the reason is not my ego that had my picture up there. There was supposed to be a QR code for you to fill out something with your phone. But I'm just going to ask a simple question. I just want to see, by a raise of hands, what you guys think. Is that if a mother always picks up her child from school and a father, unannounced, all of a sudden shows up, is he allowed to take the child from school? By a show of hands, who says yes? Who says no? Well, the answer is actually you need way more context in order to answer that questions. There are a lot of context, in a lot of storylines, the yeses are right, and in a lot of storylines, the people who said no are right. And context is everything. Not a question. Who here feels that men and women have equal parental rights protected by the law? Who says yes? Who says no? Well, interesting. See, but it is really not about who got the right answer, because it's such a dynamic topic that without context, it's really not possible to answer that question correctly. Rights and responsibilities, and the reason why those two words were put together is because they are unmistakably connected together. If you decide to fight for your parental rights, if you fight for your right to be a father, there's something that comes with it. And I think sometimes the fight for the rights have a character more of the combativeness with the ex-spouse, the ex-partner who they are leaving, trying to deprive them of their right to the child, to have the child near, then it's actually about the well-being of the child at hand. So how does the importance of this subject translate to your children? Well, it's actually very simple. I come to this. This is a very important piece of legislation, and when I say how does it come to how does it translate to your children? It starts here. Because when do you actually start becoming a father? You start becoming a father the minute you decide to have a child, not when the child is born. And in order to negate the conflict that takes place between men and women, there were people who came together and decided with this important piece of legislation. Now, I just asked the question, and a lot of men, not only here in this room, but also in the community, feel that men are not equally represented by the law. And if you really look at the stories that they share, the experiences that they share, you would actually believe that it is true. But this piece of legislation is actually the foundation and the backbone of every national law concerning children. And as men, that's why I wrote this down, this is a quote, as men we should focus less on our rights as a father, but start to express our concerns for the rights of our children. Now that sounds, read that again. As men, we should focus less on our rights as a father, but start to express our concerns for the rights of our children. When you come to our office, for instance, the Court of Guardianship, the Child Protective Agency, you should come there with the intent to make sure that your child's well-being is being taken care of, not to make sure that the mother does not take away the right from you, or that she gets more rights than you, or that she gets more time than you. All of those things are of a lesser importance. Now, when I first started off, I think I spoke to Bakari about it. I wanted to do this in a more interactive session because there's actually nothing more boring than law. It's a bunch of articles, and the rights of the child alone has 45 articles. I could go by all of them, or I could just give you a handout with 54 articles. It is actually not 45, it's 54. And then have one slide with, this is the rights of the child, here you go, have a good evening, and say good night. So I'm going to place these laws in the context so that I can trigger a change in the mindset and to make men feel less powerless, but then utilize the same laws that are there to protect children and to be empowered to utilize those children to protect their children. Because that's what fatherhood is primarily, that's where it starts, safeguarding their well-being. And
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurances.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurances.
Minister of Home Affairs and Information, Wilfred Abrams, says government started national preparations for the Atlantic hurricane season 1 month earlier than the usual June 1st has been bearing fruit. Addressing a press conference to report on the 2024 season after it officially ended on November 30, Minister Abrams says the move made 2 years ago is necessary since weather systems are forming earlier compared to previous years. He says Barbados feeling the effects of Hurricane Beryl, the earliest Category 4 storm ever reported, is a major reminder of why preparation should be sooner rather than later.
Our decision to move our operational readiness for the 1st of May as opposed to the 1st of June really bore fruit, because we were not scrambling in June. By the time Beryl came along, we were able, quite frankly, to have the Cricket World Cup, which occurred like 2 days before Beryl, the day before Beryl. We were able to have the Cricket World Cup with a plan to get people out of Barbados after the Cricket World Cup, with a plan for what to do with the people who were here for the Cricket World Cup. So the event came off. And then we immediately went into the shutdown for the preparation for the storm.
Minister Abrams says the sobering reality is that the 2024 hurricane season lived up to the prediction of an active and extremely destructive season. It became the second costliest on record, inflicting at least $220 billion in damage and causing 401 deaths overall. The Eye of Beryl, which passed Barbados between June 30 and July 1st, resulted in damage to the south and west coastal infrastructure and the Bridgetown Marina, as well as severely affecting over 90% of the fishing industry. Tourism and housing sectors were also affected, with 73% of hotels, apartments, and guest houses and 40 houses suffering levels of damage. He adds that Barbadians' approach to hurricane shelters are changing for the better.
One time we used to open the shelters and very few people were trickling. Now people were getting in there early. They were asking if they could bring the pets. They came prepared, they came with the medication. So people did heed the numerous PSAs that went out there. So Bajans approached this hurricane season a little bit different than we had before. I think we're taking it, we come into grips with the reality and taking it a bit more seriously now.
Meanwhile, Director of the Department of Emergency Management, Kerry Hines, says the agency is currently reviewing its shelter strategy and policy.
I think what I would ask, if there are any persons who are willing to volunteer the buildings as shelters, any churches, what's not, please contact the Department of Emergency Management or the Ministry of Education. We are always looking to include additional shelters on the list.
Minister Abrams is asking Barbadians to insure their properties and to secure them as much as possible. Anesta Henry, CBC News.